Hi, I'm Melisha Alhambra. I am the Early Care and Education System Specialist for AZ Health Zone, which is the state's SNAP-Ed program, and we are housed within the Arizona Department of Health Services. I have worked in early childhood since the age of 16. I'm a single mother of 4 children, one is 5, 6, 12 and 13. So I have a span of ages. And yes, so my youngest two, when I adopted them, they were 2 and 3 years old. I got to go through the potty training stage with both of them and got to experience being an early childhood mom, looking for different childcare options, also being aware of different childcare standards and regulations made me a different type of parent. So my early childhood experience has definitely helped me in my parenting of my 2 youngest children, and also with just being able to see the early childhood field from the parenting perspective has also been beneficial. I started working for the YMCA when I was 16. I did the before and after school program, but also when I was in high school, our high school had a early childhood CTE program that I also participated in. And so I learned a lot about child development in those last 2 years of high school. And I got to do a lot of work actually in the on-site child care center at my high school. And so that's where my journey sort of began with early childhood. And I've worked for multiple types of centers. I've been a nanny. I've worked in crisis shelters. I've worked at domestic violence shelters. I've also worked in with children and families through more like home visitor type programs. So I've done a little bit of everything across the spectrum, but always dealing with young children and their families in these over 20 years now. Families are the building blocks of society, and within families, that's where children have their beginning. They start. Parents are the child's first teacher. It's just my desire to see families flourish, and understanding trauma, understanding adverse childhood experiences, and knowing that all of that happens within those first, few years of life, but also are preventable if families have the tools and resources they need, if professional caregivers have the tools and resources they need, and the support, if the entire early care system has the support it needs, then everyone can potentially flourish. And so that's always just been a desire on my heart, is to see children and families flourishing. Early care and education is important because, one, children don't come with instruction manuals, but they're essential to the stability of society. They're the future generation, and the more we invest in them, the more we invest in the future of our societies. And so, if you think about, for example, if you are a business person and you want to be able to hire from a quality workforce, that all starts in early childhood. If you are a teacher, and you say a secondary teacher, or even post-secondary teacher or professor, and you are looking for bright minds to educate and to help shape and mold and guide and the academics, that all starts in early childhood. It starts with the child's first 5 to 8 years, really. Early childhood is birth to 8, but those first 5 years are crucial. And so when we all take the time to invest in early childhood, it makes a huge impact on every other system within our society. When children have what they need, and children are healthy and strong, and they're well, mentally, physically, emotionally, and they have opportunities to grow and explore and to just be nurtured and to be safe. Children need to be safe. And when they have that, we begin to see exponential change and growth, and not just the children, but the adults who are connected to them. So much has happened in the past few years when it's considering early childhood. I mean, obviously, we all went through COVID, and that was a catalyst for a lot of just exposure to just the fragility of the early childhood system. For example, the lack of pay, the lack of living wages that early childhood educators are paid, the lack of support that centers have. Many centers had to close, being able to social distance in an early childhood setting, centers who don't have the capacity to take on more children, or who don't have the capacity to hire quality educators, because the lack of ability to pay them well, the lack of respect that this profession has in society. A lot of those things have just kind of come to a head in the last couple of years, and a lot of those things have just been kind of exposed. And so I believe it's important that we focus on these things, that we come together to address them. Parents deserve a safe and nurturing environment to place their children in while they're working. Again, parents being unable to support themselves and to support their households without childcare. And also, again, providers should be able to offer quality that is affordable, but also be able to pay their educators well. And so these are some of the challenges, but we also saw challenges within the supply chain. We saw challenges within the health and safety realm. So there were a lot of things that they had to face. A lot of early childhood educators are parents too. And so, yeah, being able to find affordable care for them, being able to find childcare providers that are open on the weekends and in the evenings to be able to provide for, like what we saw during COVID, our frontline workers such as nurses and doctors who were working longer hours during the pandemic to try to keep our communities safe and healthy. And so, yeah, there were a lot of things that kind of just came together in these last couple of years that really shook our early childhood system. When we consider all of the ways in which the early childhood system influences and impacts and interacts with every other system in our society, it just makes sense. It makes sense to invest. It makes sense to create policies and statutes and opportunities to invest in and to champion early childhood education. So many families need this service. So many educators need to be paid well in order to take care of their own families. So many providers need to be able to offer above standard regulation quality care to these children and families. And that does not happen unless our legislators, unless our lawmakers, unless our decision makers actually pay attention to the issues and actually pay attention, follow the stream. Early childhood is a river that flows into many other streams. And so if you start upriver, if you start here, if you start with the youngest in our communities, in our society, we begin to see just this natural flow that will happen, and we will begin to see families and children and businesses and schools and everything else begin to just flourish and grow. So if you have a desire to see a booming economy, or whatever your angle is, that doesn't happen without a stable and a well-funded early childhood system. One reason I keep being a champion for early childhood and is I used to work in early Head Start a few years ago, almost, oh, it's been 10 years since yeah, or so. And I still have connections to some of the families, some of the children. I've seen them grow up, even not even being in their classroom teacher anymore. They are now 9 and 10 years old. And I still have relationships with those single mothers who were struggling, and they're now graduating college. I got invited to one of the moms' college graduation this past year, seeing them get married, seeing the children do well in school, get awards, and just knowing that I took care of them from the time they were infants. Some of them, in early Head Start, I had from the time they were, infants till they were 3 years old. And so it blesses me to see that it really does make a difference, and it doesn't stay in the classroom. The difference we make as educators does not stay in that classroom. It follows that child throughout their lives. And I've just been blessed enough to actually be able to see these children again. Nutrition and physical activity is important for young children for many reasons. Their mental health, their emotional health, and their physical health all are dependent upon the types of food they eat and the types of exercise and or physical activity they're able to get. So when we make sure that children have access to quality foods, nutritious foods, we actually help to make sure that they can grow and learn. AZ Health Zone is a great partner within the early childhood system. And so there are plenty of resources, but I would definitely want parents to be aware of the family resource centers. The libraries, your local libraries are a wellspring of resource and help in that regard. For example, WIC, all families can apply for WIC if you have a child in the home, or a pregnant mother or a child in the home ages birth to 5. That's a well of resources available there, but also just tapping into those family resource centers. For early childhood professionals, be a professional. Do your trainings, go to school, get your degrees, be who you are, be creative, be inspiring, be imaginative, be all of those things that make you an early childhood educator, and do it with pride and dignity, regardless of what others might say or feel or think. But be the professional that your profession deserves. Don't take it lightly. There is something I didn't know as an early childhood educator is that the pathways run wide and they run high and they run deep. Like there are so many places within our our society where early childhood educators are needed, and this profession is not just the classroom, but if you're still in the classroom, do everything you can to learn and to grow and to provide the best care and education for these young children and these young minds. You are valuable. For parents who are looking for quality care, be willing to ask the questions, be willing to go in and sit down and tour and advocate for your child's best interest, advocate for other children, advocate for changes within the system. Find out what your provider needs in order to offer that quality care, and be a champion for your provider. Be willing to go and speak to the legislators, write letters, be a parent whose voice is heard. Yeah, don't just drop off and pick up. Actually get involved, get to know the people who are caring for your child, and get to know the people who are making decisions about the quality of care that your child receives. Thank you to AZAUIC and all of the work that you all do, and supporting the early childhood system in Arizona, and making sure that voices are heard, the voices of our youngest and most precious and most essential and valuable members are heard. Children can't advocate for themselves, and so they need us. And not only the children, but those who are caring for our children day in and day out, who need a stable workforce, and who need stable pay, livable pay, and yeah, who need to be honored as and dignified as professionals in their own right.